All right. Wow, it's Wednesday. But you know what? It seems like Groundhog Day. Yes, sir, it does. Um, welcome to welcome to Eight Questions with. I'm your host Patrick from the Have Cheetah Will View YouTube channel. Glad you're here. Um, we have invited back an old friend of ours to come out and hang out with us. Actor Timothy Cox will be here with us in about 15 minutes or so, and we're really happy about that. Timothy's a great actor, always staying busy. We've interviewed him once before here on the channel, and we're glad to have him back. Um, we're talking about his latest projects, including one film that I reviewed and we'll talk about called Life Health, which I had mentioned yesterday. I didn't keep yesterday's little stream because I just didn't. But I mentioned yesterday on a little stream that if I wish I had done a short film list. I didn't watch that many short films last year. I didn't watch that much at all last year. Um, but Life Health would have easily been the second best short I've seen last year after Pony. Um, Super strong short. We'll talk about that too. Hi, Lois. How are you? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Uh, so today was been a really difficult day. We've had another cold day. My battery went out on my car. Actually, it went out last night. So I called AAA up and I say, "Hey, my battery is dead, and could you come out and give me a jump?" Um, oh, okay. Well, there's the image right there. I'm seeing you before you go take your shower. Well, be careful in the shower. Make sure you know, make sure you have your the air, to make sure you don't get the fog out of the air. And battery for my car. My car's battery died out. So last night. So I called AAA and I said, "Hey, can you come out here and give us a jump?" And considering that I bought the battery from them last year, so they said they come out, and for some reason they didn't come out. Um, and So I had to call them back today. Said, "Hey, can you guys come back out because I didn't get anybody here yesterday." Um, I have to be honest with you. I think I messed up yesterday because normally they send out a huge ass tow truck. You can't miss their tow truck. The tow truck is huge, massive. When I was down there today waiting for them to show up, they came out in a really small Matchbox car, like this big. The truck was this big. It was like a Hot Wheel. Um, it is possible that they could have came out because I was looking outside through my window on my den. They could have easily snuck in underneath there, but I know they didn't come in because they said they rang my doorbell or knocked on my door. Now I know that's not right because I was here all day because I had no car waiting for you. So I don't think I missed them, though I could have, but I didn't because they said they knocked on the door, and I was waiting at the door waiting for them. So that was my misadventure for today. I'm still wrapping my head around my friend. I'm still wrapping my mind around my friend, her misfortune. I'm just blown away by it. Uh, I'm just wow. I just didn't think, you don't ever think this is going to happen to somebody you know. There's a lot of scammers out there anyway, and you just don't suspect it to happen to anybody especially someone who you talk to them about it, you warn them about it, you give them tips about it, and, like if you don't know the person or you can't pronounce their last name, unplug, better safe than sorry. Um, I'm just heartbroken for her and her husband about what happened. Totally sad. But it is what it is, and yeah, it is. It better be. Yeah, it's better be safe. I mean, you know, we don't get them quite as often, like emails or whatever, but we still get the phone calls. The fake phone calls here in the U.S. They call us. They say they profile uh people's names. They look for certain people with the elderly people or like over 60 or 70, and they target these people, and then they try to get them to like defraud them, and that's what happened to my friend got taken in and got defrauded. So very heartbreaking, and and it happens. Michael, welcome, sir. I was just talking about this. In fact, this is something that if you wanted to talk about it in your prepper channel, that's something you probably could do. Is talk about people being defrauded. They're still out there. They are still out there. They'll contact you. All right. Our guest is going to be here in a minute. I just want to bring up his page. So we could talk about all sorts of fun stuff. See if we can get this on a little slightly peppier note. Yeah, we also are not going to have Sherry Davis on tomorrow night. She was scheduled to come back on tomorrow, but unfortunately, life has come by and it hit her pretty hard too. And I made a mistake with Sherry, and I'm really, really sorry about that. I should have known better. I don't know what I was thinking. On the bottom of my heart, Sherry, I'm really sorry. I should have thought this out a lot better by you. I know your mom is very, very ill, and to push back an interview a couple of weeks, I don't know what I was thinking. I really don't. Um, we're here whenever you're ready. Whenever you want to come onto the show, you just tell me, and the date's yours. I'm not going to assign you a date. We're not going to reschedule it. We're just going to go to whenever you're ready. You're going to schedule it, you know. And I'm really apologize for not being more sensitive to you. Um, I don't know what I was thinking. You think that you have some experience with certain things, and it's amazing how clueless you sometimes get. And I should have just told you whenever you're ready, because you don't need the pressure on your shoulders right now. But we are here for you, and though we don't know each other particularly that well, but we are here for you, and anything we can do for you, we will be happy to do so. So we will be having Sherry Davis on whenever she's ready to come on. All right. That's right. All right. So greetings, Timothy.
Hello, sir. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. I am pounding the pavement, letting people know that I made a mistake yesterday, and had to apologize for that. And yeah, this is weak. You're the perfect guest for today. Seriously, just be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
You're the perfect guest. I could not have asked for a better guest to sit down to talk to us today.
Well,
Because
thank you. Yeah, I know there's a lot. There's a lot going on right now in the world. With the new strain, as they call it. But yeah, it's it's affecting everybody. Yeah, I mean, I worked on a film the beginning of last week, and I think the day after I wrapped, it started getting revealed that some people started testing positive, and I haven't been able to get a test, but I had like cold symptoms, but then again, I was, you know, but if I had it, I had a very, very mild case. But, you know, of course, I have a 4-year-old son, and he, of course, is fine. He developed a little bit of croup, but got a steroid shot, and he's doing great and jumping around and doing what 4-year-old boys do.
Yes. Be super active.
He is. He is. He keeps my wife and I on our toes in the best possible way.
Thank you, Loves. Yeah, be real careful. Loves is leaving us. She's gonna get ready for her night, and she just want to come by, say hello, and show support. Our good friend Michael came by, but I think he left already. So I'm not sure where he's at. But I just wanted to say thank you for everybody for showing up for tonight. Yeah, so my week has been crazy. So yesterday, this is such a funny story because this is just tells you where it's at. So I land one of our bigger guests. Okay. Like someone who, I landed Jennifer Blanc. That's a pretty big guess for me. It's like, okay. And I was really excited because Jennifer has done a lot of films, and she got to work with director Joe Lynch on a film called Everly. Now everybody knows that. Well, maybe not everybody, but Jennifer's also married to Michael Biehn from the Terminator, Tombstone, the Abyss. Yeah, that's her. That's his wife.
Oh wow, that's very cool. Excellent actor.
Yeah. Yes, but she's a great actress too, though. She's a very good, strong actress, and so when we talked, I said, how I do that interview. It's all about the guest. It's all about that artist. And I told her right off the bat, I says, I don't want to talk about your husband. We're not talking about him because this is not about him. This is about you. And now, because a lot of people, they would get really excited, and I know this because I just know fanboys. I know that they probably would have tried to weasel in. Could you get him on camera to say hello? Now, me on the other hand, is like I love Michael Biehn. I do. I mean, I could talk Magnificent Seven all day long, but what I was really excited about to talk to Jennifer about was not that. That's all secondary. What I wanted to talk to her about was working for Joe Lynch because I absolutely love Joe Lynch. He's the director of Mayhem. He did Nights of Badassdom. He named one of his characters Cheetah in one of his films. Daniel R. Hill, who's been a guest on the show, and so Joe Lynch is like one of my favorite guys. I would love to have Joe Lynch on the show, but that's what I want to talk about. Plus, you got to work with Salma Hayek. She got to work Salma Hayek in the same movie with Everly, that Joe directed. Plus, she worked on 2 really strong films. So I'm really excited to have Jennifer. So she calls, she pings me, and she says, "Hey, and she tried so hard. God love her. She didn't have to do that, Tim. She didn't have to do that at all. But she took it all the way to the mat, saying, she's going to be on the show and this and that. Her whole household was sick.
Oh, wow.
The whole household was sick. She was taking care of family members and all that other stuff. I'm like, oh God, of course. Can we reschedule? It's like, oh, why are you asking? Of course we could do that. It's like, oh, hell yeah. I mean, I'm so sorry it's happening to you.
Yeah.
So, and I me, right? Because we do this, So I said, do you have anybody who would like to have the spot? Anybody who you think up and comer, have a free spot. She goes, I got somebody for you. I said, okay. And so she introduces me to this actor named Robert Scott. And I'm going like, hell yeah. All right. So I get in there, we're pushing this through. Of course, I'm coming to him the day of, like yesterday. I'm coming to him and going like, oh, by the way, do you want to do this press thing with me? Like now, tonight. Here he is. He's looking around. He's like, well, I got all sorts of things planned up, but yeah, I can come out there and help you out. And so we're all excited and everything else. And he says, okay, I'll be home by 9:30 or 9:15. All right, great. Now I will go up at 9:30. That comes and goes. Nothing. He shows a show. He's not there. It's like, oh, this is not good. So yesterday I stayed up for an hour, a little over an hour, and then I figured out I figured out what happened. I said, I bet you it was the time difference. He forgot the time.
Ah.
And so today I went over there, and sure enough, that's what happened. He came over. He thought it was gonna be 9:15 his time.
Ah.
He was. I mean, it was. But we did say it was Eastern. But when you're in a hurry, sometimes some things you don't see. You don't see things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was up. I was up yesterday with no guests. So Jennifer was sick, and then you catch the replay about what I said about Sherry Davis.
Yeah.
So here I am going like, this week is just, I got a car battery that my battery went dead for 2 days. A friend of mine, a family friend of mine had a really tragic incident happen.
Oh.
So, like I said, I'm going like, can this week get any worse?
No,
but it can get better because we have Timothy Cox here today. So
happy to be back.
So we should actually be blowing the cavalry, the horn, the bugle. Where's John Wayne? Forget John Wayne. Tie that yellow ribbon around Timothy Cox.
God, so, yeah, no, it's nice to be back.
Yeah, nice to have you. So yeah, now everything that we know your story. I mean, this is our fourth time.
Mm-hmm, yeah,
this is our fourth time, second on the show.
Mm-hmm.
I had Mike Ferguson on last week. He was the first returning guest, and I had you today.
Mm-hmm.
All these super talented, you guys are such super talented actors.
Mm-hmm.
Are in a feature film called Amityville Uprising for
cool.
Yes. So, but you, on the other hand, star in a absolutely, why am I surprised though, right? An absolutely beautiful film called Life Health.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's a personal movie. It's a movie that I made with my wife Jamie, and I wanted to see if I could actually do it, like make a movie, even a short film. And it was something that I think I touched a little bit upon in our last discussion about anxiety, and as many people have been grappling with it and continue to grapple with it through the pandemic. And I just decided to craft it into a short of a therapist who with the pandemic being as it is forced to have to see his patients via Zoom, and how it affects them, but how it affects him as well. Not just the it takes its toll on him, and you just see throughout the course of the film how bad it really is, not just for therapists. And so a lot of people hopefully can relate to just the feelings of sadness and hopelessness, and but also that there does have to be light at the end of the tunnel. And I hope we paint a kind of a hopeful outlook. But
it's funny. It's like I have a very good friend of mine who's he and I met because of our wives.
Mm-hmm.
His wife Amy was sick, and I got to know her. Me and Lori both got to know her, and then she had gotten sick, and then she had gotten in remission, and then it came back for her. And I didn't know her husband at all until a friend of mine, a journalist friend of mine, told me about him. Says, I'm going to have him call you. and he calls me up, and he's because it's by this time Lorianne is she's advanced now. He
Mm.
calls me up and he talks to me, and him and I talked for 4 hours.
Wow.
And what I didn't realize until the next day was that he took that time off. That was his wife's anniversary of her death.
Mm. Oh, wow.
So he talked to me for and we stayed in touch and whatnot. And when I watched your film, it really brought home to me a story he told me because we were checking on each other. And I remember saying, I remember one time going like, how are things going? He goes, well, I have to find a new therapist. I'm like, oh, that's terrible. You've been with the one for a while now. I
Hmm.
said, what happened to her? I mean, did she move away or whatnot? She goes, she killed herself.
Wow.
And yeah, and it was the same thing with when I was talking to my other friends who are journalists, and I'm like, where do you go to where do you go?
Yeah.
You know, the psychiatry has the highest suicide rate in the medical field.
Hmm.
More psychiatrists kill themselves um, in the performance of their duties than any other, in the medical, the branches of the medical field.
Yeah.
They truly don't have anywhere to go.
No.
They absorb everything, and it's hard for them to get out of it. Because
Yeah.
now you got HIPAA laws and all that other stuff. I mean, you got all that. Um, and it's like with regular doctors, you got, you know, they got the colleagues, they have boards, and they have reviews and all the other stuff where you could actually get it out of your system, like because you're not because my patient died today. Okay, let's go talk about it. It's like
Hmm.
a psychiatrist or a grief counselor. My patient, I'm not doing good today. Well, where do you go to unburden yourself?
Yeah.
A lot of them, they don't know, either they don't have anybody or they don't know how to do it.
And you have that, and then pile on a global pandemic on top of that, where the great feeling when the idea came to me for the film, it was in a point where uh, no one quite knew. It was in the beginning of when we were still finding out so much about COVID and what it all was, and you were getting so much different information, and just there was a lot of fear and anxiety, but you had to, as best you could, go on. And I think that's what Peter Marcus tries to do. But you just see throughout the course of the film is that it's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard for everybody in every possession, in every profession, and we're still seeing that now more than ever. Just the cases are rising, and we have this strain, and then we don't know if another one is coming, and it's just it just continues, goes on and on and on and on and on. And you have to be hopeful, but I would imagine it is like you said, it's hard for because who do they turn
No,
to?
what kills me about this, as far as this goes, and this would be, I'm not sure if you ever, I don't know if you, what kind of back research you did for your role as Peter Marcus, but I would be fascinated to find out, like I would be fascinated to find out how many psychiatrists, have how they feel about it, because we've
Yeah.
heard about medical doctors all along. But I would love to sit down and hear what a psychiatrist or a psychologist would have to say about this. It's like, how do you handle this? Because this is one aspect of the disease that's not been covered yet. It's
Hmm.
on the toll on mental health, not caregivers,
Yeah.
because it's frustrating. I mean, and especially because considering this, they're like the last line of defense,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Right, they're the last line of defense, and yet there's some of their brethren are sitting there telling us, like, we'll get your vaccination, wear a mask, social distancing, all that. And then on the other hand, you got the other side over there who are the other doctors and nurses or whatnot who refuse to do it.
Mm.
Then you got the patients that are caught in the middle, and where they're going to you for the final answer. And you're
Yeah.
sitting there really going like, what answer do I give them? Because there is no clear-cut answer.
Mm-hmm.
Half my colleagues are saying one thing, half my colleagues are saying the other. And what answers do I give?
And that's kind of what he's grappling with, like a feeling of hopelessness. I mean, like of just to me, consciously, throughout when the way the film is placed, you have the patients that the first three patients that Nancy Kellogg Gray, Matt Harris, and Becca Robinson they play. They're ones that Peter has a rapport with. He knows that that he can help them or that he is helping them. But then there's that patient that you can't reach, and that's the one that Bob Rutan plays. The one that no matter how, that's the one that it stays in Peter's mind, because the reality is that he can't help everybody, and it's kind of like, and even like what Bob's character says, it's like I don't even know why I'm coming here, and it's like that's all of that, like with the way Bob did all of that, and all of that, I should say, all of the dialogue that everyone delivered in all of their sessions was completely improvised. All I did was I gave them a character description and of how long we've been seeing each other, and I said, and they took the ball and they ran with it. So Bob gets the credit for that characterization because he came up with that all completely on his own.
He was sensational.
And it worked so perfectly because it's such a wonderful contrast to everyone else. I chose those actors specifically. One, they're wonderful people, but also because they're the sound of their voices is so different. Nancy is very soft and very motherly. Matt is very energetic and very and then Becca also very energetic, but then she could pull back and like just kind of tug at your heartstrings. Bob, I love Bob. Bob's got that deep, direct voice. And then you have Heidi, who's just the voice of peace, and so all of them specifically, they really were just wonderful, and glad to have them. And but I chose them specifically because of their voices, and I knew that they would be great.
What did you come up with the idea?
I thought of it. I thought about myself, like, when I had an anxiety attack in May of 2020, and I briefly thought about therapy myself, and I thought, how the hell would a therapist do this right now? And I actually looked up and I saw, there are a lot of online sites that have people that you could speak to. I don't know, through an app, I imagine. And I just thought, like, a therapist who had a successful in-person practice probably now would have no choice, either do things over the phone or do things over Zoom. And so and then from that, I knew that I wanted to have 4 or 5 patients. I knew I wanted what they were going to talk about be completely improvised. I knew I didn't want to say very much. I knew I wanted to say everything through body language. I think a lot of like great performances, you can see it it's all in the eyes, it's all in the body language, it's all in a look, and very minimalist. And I pitched it to my wife, Jamie, who's a wonderful editor and cinematographer. And it took a long time to, get it together to try to, because availability to get everybody's, I had the actors film their stuff and then send it to me. And then we edited it in, and then we filmed my stuff around that, me reacting to their, what they were doing. And once we got down to editing it, I knew that I wanted it to be about 9 or 10 minutes, and then like it's hard though. It was hard. It was definitely a learning experience because everything that you think that you've
You know,
thought about, there's always at least 5 or 10 other things that you feel like, oh, I didn't think about that. So it was definitely a learning experience. I would do it again, but like, yeah, definitely I would do it.
oh, I think if he did this movie again,
Mhm.
and I was going to ask you, you know, which doctor were you able to talk to any doctors?
No, I went on and there were YouTube, and I just of a lot of I watched a couple of like doctors just to get different vibes on like how they approach like um, psychiatry, really. But no, I didn't really. There wasn't not really one doctor specifically. I based this on. I read a little bit about like of just a little bit about like kind of ailments that or ways that psychiatrists interact with their patients, and especially in the age of Zoom and all of that. Really, it's just being present as much as possible. There were a couple of videos where there was a guy on his phone the whole time, and so I was like, okay, we don't want to do that, obviously, but no, and I think just the key thing was just to show something honest and true, and something that an audience could relate to, hopefully.
I definitely could. I mean, you know, and the funny thing is, you know, it's funny if I was going to say if he had actually talked to a therapist, I could probably, and you probably already know this yourself, but you could talk to a therapist today and talk to another one the next day and another one the next day, and you're going to
Hmm.
have three sets of answers.
Yeah.
There's never one that's going to be giving you the same, you know, the same set of answers as the others will. They all have their own, you know, they all see it subjectively. You know, they all have their different ways of treating it, or treating the patient, or dealing with the problem.
Hmm.
Um, that makes the character just so much more, to me, it's so much more difficult, because you really don't have a template. You know, you're really just going like, okay, you know, I guess it's like the ultimate improv. You know, it's like, okay, you're a psychiatrist. There you go. You know, go. And it's like, well, I have no idea. I can only go with what I think I should. You know.
Yeah, I think like how I looked at it as with each relationship, I had you know, with each like with Nancy's character, I was much more of like kind of like sympathetic, like kind of like a son, like, okay, I'm here to listen. With Matt's character, I tried to be a little more friendly. Same also with Becca. Bob's character, that was the one where I knew I had to be on my toes, because Bob is the tough. He's the tough one. He's kind of like the Rubik's cube, that because he's a new patient and I'm trying to help him, and yeah, you got to throw as as much of your focus and your attention as possible, because people, kind of like in anything, there are people who want quick answers. They want, like, it's kind of like when if they go in and they see a certain movie, they want a beginning, a middle, and a satisfying ending. And and I would imagine it's the same thing in if you see in the case when you see a therapist. Some people, it's a process, and
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that Bob's character maybe doesn't acknowledge, and then also that Peter has to understand too, is that even in his own um, grappling with his own issues, is that it's a process, and that there are people who
Especially when the man doesn't, you know, especially when a patient does, not only does he not listen to you, but then he blames yourself. Then he blames you for his own misfortune. It's like, if you had done what I suggested, you wouldn't be here, but you
Mhm.
didn't. Now you're there, and so how is it my fault? But yet I'm supposed to sit here and take it because that's your job. You're supposed to
Yeah.
let him. You know, you're supposed to let him. You're supposed to let him have that space. You know, but
And the, and
and
the
it's
thing is also for airing that, if I would love it if I would want, as Peter, I would want Bob, his character Lincoln, to come back, because from that, the airing of that, it's sometimes that in itself is therapeutic. Like you learn from that. Like, you know, it's usually after the fact, like, oh, that's what he meant. Like, so, but that's, I mean, the nice thing about like a movie like this is that you do walk away, hopefully asking more questions, which is, I think, the mark of a good film, you know, or like a good play, a good book, good television series where everything is not tied up nice and neat. I mean, that you do have to work a little to kind of wonder. I wonder about these characters after when the credits roll. You wonder, are they going to be okay? Are they gonna make it? And
that's a trademark of yours, though.
yeah, I mean, I like that. I like,
Mhm.
you know, I like the audience, like where they, that's kind of like what I like to see as an audience member. Like I kind of like if you're out at the pub and like, you know, you're sitting there wondering like, God, what I want, you know, you think about the characters and you think like they stay with you. If a character or a story or if it resonates with you in a certain way, and if it hits you at a certain time in your life where, like I remember when the movie Sideways came out, Sideways and Paul Giamatti's character hit me at the right time and in a way that like you know it sticks with me. And that movie came out almost 20 years ago and it still resonates in a way. That's one, like, you know, if I'm flipping through and I see it, that's a remote drop because, you know, we've all, any artist, writer, comedian, musician can relate to Paul Giamatti's Miles, and frankly to Thomas Hayden Church's Jack, to all of the characters. I mean, that's like, you know, I think that's what it's all about. Like why I do this, it still, it's got to be about the characters and the journey of the characters and the fact that even after the film ends, the journey continues, and that, you know, and it keeps the audience guessing and hoping that and hopefully relating.
Yeah, you know, I was watching, you know, in Life Health, you know, that's, you know, I was really happy to see that there was someone that Peter could talk to.
Mm-hmm.
If you just would have showed him walking back there without talking to anybody, my opinion of the character, you know, my outlook for that character would not be very strong. I could see him self-destructing, in a matter of, weeks, or,
Yeah.
if he did not have that, and the thing is, though, I don't think it was necessarily pride that made him stay in the fight with a patient. I don't think that at all.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like he really did want to help. He
Yeah.
really did, but it was really hard. Lincoln was not a easy character to deal with. And hats off to Bob Rutan. Wow, just what a masterful performance. I mean, he gave as good as a shot as you did. I mean, I would say he was Timothy Cox good.
He everybody did a marvelous job, and like well, and it was nice, like because yeah, Bob just he really just knocked it out of the park. And like, and the nice thing about it is that he didn't scream or yell or anything like that. He just very simply, and just, laid it out there in just a very honest, truthful way. I think that's the thing that all of the performances from the cast is that they were all honest and true, and that's, couldn't ask for more than that.
What was it like working with your wife? Was that the first project you've ever worked with each other on?
Yeah, that was the first. And no, she's marvelous, of course, and very patient with me, because it's kind of like, you have things in your head that you want things to kind of look, and then trying to communicate that. So Jamie was and is marvelous, and I'd love to do something else with her again. I have an idea for another short a very, very short film that I'd hope to do with her this coming year. But I think it's just still, still
Now,
knocking around in here.
now, was all the equipment that you used, because you shot this at your home, I take it?
Yeah, we shot on iPhones and yeah, like real easy. And we edited on my wife's laptop, and probably took up a lot of space on the her laptop. But and yeah, we kept it real simple, real. I mean, like no, nothing, nothing fancy. I didn't want. I wanted to tell the story simply and honestly, and I wanted I wanted the characters in the story, not to people to be taken with that, and hopefully the relatability of it.
Now, were these actors that were these all Ohio-based actors, or some of these from New York?
All over. Bob's in New York. Nancy's in New York. Matt is in. He's in Maryland now. Becca is. She just graduated from Marietta College in Ohio, and Heidi is in Illinois. So, but Heidi and I went to college together. Matt is a dear friend. Matt and I have done theater together for about 15 years. Bob and I have done theater together, and Nancy and I have done theater. And Becca and I am. We both went to Marietta College, and I met Becca. She had directed me in an online one-act festival maybe like a year and a half ago, and I just always remembered her and always liked her her energy, and just thought like she would be be great to have her for this film.
I think that, I mean, I think that I think the cast was one of your strongest for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody had to give that elevated performance.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many days did it take you to shoot the film? Was it like was it a couple of days, or was it a little bit more than that? And how did you keep your creative energy up?
My stuff, I think we filmed all of my stuff in, I think, two kind of half days, because I think one of the things we had to film, one of the days we had to film when my son was taking a nap, and of course all of the stuff that Jamie was able to film, we already had the other cast footage, so I was able to react off what they did, and so which that was good. And then we filmed I think the following morning. I think so basically over like 2 days, and we edited. I think it probably took about a month or so to edit, just because work schedules and all of that kind of thing. And but no, I think I released the film about 2 months ago, I believe, and no, and it's been getting a nice, really, really nice reaction from everybody across the board, and I'm just thankful that people are watching the film.
Yeah, I did not really watch many films as I normally do.
Mm-hmm.
And normally I always do my top 10 or top 20 films and a top 10 short list and a bottom 10. I did not watch that many short films this year. I think I really only watched two. I watched Life Health, and I watched called Pony. And I think that's really all I watched. I didn't even watch Omelettos. I know, right? I mean, because they put us some. I was really happy about Omeletto, though. They put Pony out there, so I was able to I'll be able to review it. Couldn't do it yet because it was out in festival, but then it came out, and now it's on Omeletto, and it's like now I could actually review it. So I didn't put that in my final top end of the year list, because I just didn't feel like I didn't review enough. But I just want you to know that if I had Life Health, I already know going in. Some things I just already know. I know when I see it where it's going to be. I can see it now in January, and I can tell you right now that movie or short, it'll make it all the way to the end. It'll stick with me all the way to the end. And I would tell you right now that that was one of the movies that would have. I mean, I highly recommend it. I was very glad to review it. I was very impressed with it. Um, uh, I say it before and I'll say it again, but it's just time. I love to see you in front of a feature. It's
Mhm.
time. People need to discover you because you are one of the most talented actors I've ever met.
Oh, thank you. Well, hopefully 2022, I just wrapped on a feature film here in Ohio. I have another feature, suppose hopefully coming up in 2022 and another one. So, it's, I mean, it's really just sticking with it. I mean, just keep doing it. But hopefully, film with safety protocols. I don't know if we're going to go into any kind of other lockdown or any kind, or if anything's going to be delayed or what have you. But no, it's the film I worked on last week was a feature film called Dirty People, The Dirty People,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah,
it was.
Timothy. Yes, Chadwick. But I see that more as I saw that more as a bigger picture, like a miniseries. I
What's it?
watched a Chadwick Whitmer. He's another actor
Oh
director.
yeah, yeah. Hey,
Yeah, and he put out a series called Changing Malcolm,
yeah.
but it's like a mini series. It's like they have like 3 or 4 parts to it.
Yeah, I've seen we Facebook friends. I've seen him posting about that, and no, it's nice that
And he's
is the
right. I do, and I need to get off. I do need to get off my ass and watch the second part of this series.
yeah.
I don't know what it was last year. I really truly don't know. It's like I was really shocked because I always keep my list of the movies that I watched on Letterbox. I
Mhm.
always have a list of this is what I watched this year, and it's like it's really shocking to know. Like 3 years ago, I watched 281 films, and then this past year I was at 120. And
Yeah, I mean it's.
like, wow, what's going on? It's like my buying habits didn't slow down.
I
It
know.
wasn't
Yeah,
like
yeah. You make because you still you get. I always see like you get some nice DVD finds.
yeah. Do you now? Do you collect physical media too, Tim?
I used to. I mean, the if there's any DVDs that I receive these days, it's usually the SAG screeners for the awards that come out this time of year. Other than that, really, I'm now I'm a big Amazon Prime, Netflix person. I always find a lot of good options on. I like Amazon Prime especially because I find there are ones that are on Prime or there are ones that you can rent, and the rentals are not that expensive. Usually $2.99, or it's kind of like renting from the old days of the video store. And I used to when I was starting out.
Yeah, I tell you what gets me with the streaming services too. There's one thing about streaming services I will have to say that it is a pleasant reminder of days gone by, and that is it really does feel like you're walking outside of a blockbuster.
Hmm.
Because you're sitting there and you're looking around and going like, what do I watch? And there's like so many choices out there, and you just don't know. You're sitting there for an hour trying to figure out what something to watch. You know,
Yeah, I'll do
especially
that. Or like I'll get like if I'm scrolling along, or like, oh God, I want to watch that movie, but just not tonight. And so I'll save that. Or like, but also I think now what I do is I'll watch a movie like based on, okay, if I'll have two choices. If one movie is 90 minutes or if a movie is 2.5 hours, I got to go with the 90-minute movie because I have to think about, well, if it's 8 o'clock now and I go to bed at 9:30, 9:45, my son might wake up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And if I watch a 2.5 hour movie, I'm not going to get enough sleep. But sometimes, like I watched the Paul Thomas Anderson's The Master for the first time a few weeks ago, and I had been putting it off for about 10 years, and I had it in my Netflix queue, I think, for years, and finally watched it, and it was definitely worth the wait. But I figured, it was worth staying up that little extra bit. But that is a factor as well, like how long the movie is. I mean,
That's something else.
yeah,
It
but
seems like it used to be like in the late '60s. You used to have those huge, epic, bloated epics, right? Like Lawrence of Arabia, or I remember one of the first movies I watched because I can't remember how long it was. It seemed like forever for me, but that was Doctor Zhivago.
oh
Uh,
yeah.
oh Lord, that seemed to go on forever and ever and ever. Now, some movies play fast though. Some movies will play fast, like Titanic. Titanic plays really fast. I mean,
Heat
Titanic
plays
was
Heat
really,
plays fast for me. Like Heat, like Michael Mann's Heat. You
yes.
forget that that's 3 hours because it just snaps long. The Godfather doesn't feel long for me. Any of the movies because you're so riveted in the story. Uh, the Lord of the Rings. I
Yes,
mean,
played very,
if
very
you watch all three of them in one day, yeah, that feels long. But individually, the movies, I mean, they're just so. There's some movies that are so constructed. Now, there are some movies that it's a slow burn, but like you hang on for the ride. That like you don't, even though it's a slow burn, you don't feel the length. Like The Power of the Dog, which I think is my vote for the best picture of the year. It's a slow burn, but God, it's a beautiful film, and but you got to stick with it. I mean, it's definitely one where you got to stick with it, and it's a slow burn movie, but it's out. Have you seen it yet, or?
No, I have not. I have not seen that. And the thing is, though, it's like I don't know how. Like a lot of people, a lot of like right now, a lot of the community is doing their top tens and top 20s and whatnot. And we actually got a few people here. Just want to say hi to some of the people in the chat. Bobby Lapierre from Film Threat Magazine is here. Thank you,
Bobby.
Bobby. And the lovely Jamie Hart is here. She'll be here as a guest here on the 25th. And see, we also have Chadrick's with us, and Paul was in here a minute ago. Frostbite 2022. Yeah, thank you guys all for showing up. I didn't know what to expect tonight. Like I said, tonight's just been like, so this week's just one hell of a ride.
Loose and relaxed, yeah.
Yeah, I'm so happy you guys came out and support this interview. I reviewed Life Health. I will be putting my review down below, so you guys can all go check it out. Yeah, the bloated films. It got down to like, got back. Films used to go back down to 90 to like an hour and a half to an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And yet all of a sudden it seems like the trend today is reverse. It seems like now we're going back to films that are getting longer and longer.
Yeah.
I think that isn't necessarily a good thing. I mean, there's been some movies that have come out that have not been that good.
Well, it's kind of like, I mean, if you look at the Marvel movies, a lot of them are clocking a little over 2 hours, but they're just for that demographic of you think of the kids, they just throw everything at it. And if the kids are loving it, which clearly they are, and the adults are loving it as well, they're fun. But yeah, I think there's a lot of them that are that in that little over 2 hour mark. Some are even clocking a little longer. But
Avengers Endgame, I thought it was going to be Avengers End of Me game. Man, that thing was bloated. Wow, I was like, I'm like, can you guys end it already? And I'm a superhero guy, but I'm sitting there going like, can you guys end it already? Because this ain't going nowhere.
No,
I never had that. I didn't have that feeling at all. When I watched Titanic or my favorite long movie, right? The one, in fact, this one had an intermission in it. That's how long it was. My absolute favorite one is Gettysburg.
Oh no, that is a good. Oh, we could talk about
like an hour.
That's a shame that movie did not have because it did not have a theatrical release, did it?
Yeah, it did, but it didn't get a very good one.
Yeah, because that movie, I mean, I mean, Richard Jordan. God, I mean, there are so many wonderful performances. I mean, Richard Jordan,
He
because
killed that
that
whole movie.
because that's a movie that you would think that it it would have gotten like big awards consideration and all of that, and then next thing I know that it was on TNT all of the time because I know Ted Turner was a really big fan of it,
Yeah,
and
Turner threw all the money into it, and then he threw, like, he's pretty much bankrolled it, and then he had a small part in it, and but you're right. You mentioned Richard Jordan right off the bat.
mm,
That movie's his movie.
what an you know, underrated actor. He was a guy that he had been around for years. I mean, I think of movies like The Friends of Eddie Coyle, and he was a very distinguished stage actor and director, and that was one of his last movies. And then he was in The Fugitive, and then I think he got sick, and then they had to reshoot his scenes with a different actor.
Yeah,
But and because he died relatively young.
42. He was only 42, I think.
No kidding. Wow. But that's the thing is, you lose actors like that. I mean, their work always lives on, but you think of actors like him. And I just watched a documentary on Raul Julia, who was also a marvelous actor who left us too early, or Philip Seymour Hoffman. I mean, you just think of all of these actors that
No,
the legacy they left behind, but it's a shame that the work that
let me
we're
let me
not going to be able to see.
let me ask you a question, because that's a really interesting question, and it's a good segue. But let's talk about that for a minute, because I'm
Hmm.
really curious to see what you have to say, since I respect you so much, and you're a working actor. Someone like Richard Jordan,
Hmm.
who died of cancer, right? He died of cancer at age 42.
Was it
He was
brain tumor
beyond
or
help.
something? I thought it was a brain. I don't know. It was a brain tumor or something like that. Yeah.
It was something that was beyond his control, right?
Yeah.
And there's nothing he could, it's just it just he just got played a bad hand. And at first, it's sad. It's sad. But Philip Seymour Hoffman, who had everything to go for, everything to live for, had all the money in the world, had a loving family, had kids, everything else, and he came out there and he threw it away. Tossed it away.
Well, well,
He did.
let's be. I mean, he was an addict. He had to be put things in perspective. He had been clean for about 20 years, I believe. And I think he went to I think he went to a cast party for the master, and I think that's when he kind of fell back into addiction. And sadly, it was the addictions that took his life. I mean, look, I have a brother. I had a brother who, with addiction, with drugs and with alcohol, and it's something that on an individual basis, it's something that it hits everybody in a certain way. Him, I mean, I can't speak for how it affected Philip Seymour Hoffman, but I know that it did tear apart his family, and obviously it did eventually it took his life, and it's a shame. But it's just it's like all of these sad stories that you hear all of the time about Chris Farley, John Belushi, all of them, Brittany Murphy, all of them that have had sadly that pain, that inner pain, that they thought that drugs or alcohol was going to cure that, and unfortunately it didn't, and they just went too
But
far with it.
as an actor, when you see someone like a Philip Seymour Hoffman, who's, to me, this is what I looked at. It's like, he had he was like your brother. He had a much more limited group, the support group. He really did. I mean, he didn't have the tens of thousands of dollars, to go to rehab over and over and over. He didn't have the we're gonna hire handlers. The Hollywood sometimes have like two or three handlers that are basically all they're there for is to keep things out of their clients' hands. Hence the handler, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, of how with his addictions and all of that, and as far as how Hollywood handled it, I'm not obviously not privy to that. I mean, all I know is that if people that I have known who have been affected by addiction, it comes from a place of pain. You know, he was clearly in pain, that and that and it's like it's sadly it's a story that we've seen time and time and time again,
Do you
and
think
that
it is in pain, or do you think honestly, like with Ben Affleck, I talked about this before. Ben Affleck had the same thing. He had years of sobriety, underneath his belt. I mean, and he had, he had a same situation as Philip Seymour Hoffman. He had a lovely wife at home. He had kids waiting for him at home, and he's working. He's making his art,
and
and
the thing is at the end of the day that I think people forget is that Ben Affleck, Philip Seymour Hoffman, yeah, they're actors, but they're also people. They have the same doubts and fears and neuroses that all of us have. The fact that, I mean, Ben Affleck has had to live the last 25, 30 years under the thumb of paparazzi. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's probably had a battle with, addiction. But it's funny, Richard Burton said something really, really interesting about addiction. It was an analogy that Jimmy Breslin used to say. It was about he used to equate it with a boxer. That whatever ailment you have, whether it's booze or drugs or um, depression or anxiety, whatever, you get up every day and you have to be on your guard to fight this, this being, whether it is because if you let your guard down even a little bit, it's going to get you on the chin. Now, people, I obviously can't speak to Ben Affleck's personal experience, but he's out there doing the best he can. I mean, and I commend him because he is trying to do what he needs to do for his family, but he is under the microscope of Hollywood constantly, of paparazzi, and that's unfair. It's just it's not.
I just felt like this is the thing. I hear what you're saying, and I do hear it. But again, it's like to me, what really kills me about this is the fact that like in the case of Philip Seymour Hoffman, he had just gotten out of rehab again. Okay, he had gotten out of rehab. He spent for like 3-4 months in there, top-notch care and everything else. There's 4 months of hard work going in there trying to help him recover. Try to help him grab onto, like you have everything. Okay. Now, if he wants to know what it was like having nothing, then there's a lot of people whose shoes I could have directed him to, like walk in those shoes, and then I can understand you wanting to come out and be self-destructive. I can understand.
That's addiction. Addiction, it's every day you're out there walking that tightrope. It only takes one act, so yeah. I think yeah, I mean obviously, we don't know his personal journey. I mean, we know what was reported in newspapers and articles and stuff like that, but your heart just goes out to his family, like with anyone, who've I mean, his family or like have to spend the holidays without their father or their husband or their brother or their cousin or what have you. So it's like I don't know. I think it's hard for people, for actor. It's hard for everybody out there. But I'm not an expert on that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, it's just funny, a reason I mentioned it because to me, it frustrates me. I guess that's the word for me. It's like it's very frustrating to me to see, maybe because where I grew up at, what I saw, and everything else. But I just see a lot of people with a lot of opportunity. It's like, okay, if your craft, if your art is causing you that much pain, right? If you're doing that, it's costing you that much, then leave it. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to sit there and like Ben Affleck, he had years of sobriety underneath his belt. For
And
Gone for
that's
Gone
that
Girl,
but
he
that's addiction. That's addiction.
well, I think part of his choice because like he like here's here's the quote.
That's addiction. I'm sorry. That's addiction. It's addiction. If you don't, if even if you don't have a drink for 20 years, you wake up every day and you are still an addict, and anything could send you back down spiraling.
Yeah,
Whether it's a divorce, or you know you get a bad review, you have a drink. You have a good review, you have a drink. I mean, I don't know what I mean. Discussing Ben Affleck and all of that. I mean, we don't know the dynamics of his life. I mean, aside from what is reported in magazines that probably don't print the true story, or I mean, in the case of him and his marriage. I mean, I'm sure Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner would love to wake up tomorrow and not see their names in a magazine. And I'm sure their kids would as well. That if they would just wake up and, like, just talk about my movies, talk about, the Tender Bar, and not talk about the fact that, Ben may have had a couple of drinks recently.
yeah. I mean, the irony of that movie when I saw the preview for that movie, the irony of that was not lost on me. It's like, okay, you're having you're having an alcoholic play a bartender. It's like talk about triggering mechanisms. I mean, it's just like I don't know if that would necessarily be the most healthiest choice to play a part like that. There's a lot of inherent risk in something like that.
Oh,
I mean,
sure, but
there are risks in roles you play.
oh, sure. I mean, there are times that you have to confront the good, the bad, and the ugly of yourself. From that comes catharsis, hopefully. Um, if playing a bartender helped give him insight that was going to help him in life, absolutely. I mean, that's what the thing is. If you could play a part that illuminates and educates not just an audience but yourself, where you are like, you learn something from it, that's reward enough. That's better than any Oscar that you can put on a mantle, because that's something that you get enlightenment from it. I mean, that's what you get, enlightenment from that.
Our chat has really taken off here, Tim. I mean, this is I don't know how this happens, but you know what, boy, what a great this is how it whirls here. 8 questions with, right?
Yeah.
And I want to say I'm personally I'm sorry about hearing about your brother, and I hope he's doing well.
Oh yeah,
Um,
my brother. Yeah, he passed away a couple of years ago, and but now, like, I think of him every day. But he was someone that, for a good part of his life, battled addiction, and for a long time, I didn't understand. Like, I always thought he used that as an excuse, but then, you get older and you start to understand. You start to realize that it is a disease, and it is something that, and like I said, you could be clean for a long time, and then one little thing could send you right back down. And that's people, and every day, I would imagine addicts, like, I've had, I'd say a couple of years ago, I wouldn't say that I was close to alcoholism. I would say I was skidding along the edge when I was still living in New York. But like, you always have that, I always had that little voice in my head and saying, not enough, not enough. Or I was falling asleep on the subway too many times, coming home, from the bar, and then you realize that that's a problem. But, but it's like things that you learn. I mean, anything that helps you grow. And sometimes, you gotta, how you learn is like, you gotta skirt a little close to the edge, and
yeah.
that's how you learn. And like, some make it back, and some and some don't, and that's I mean
I
that's yeah.
I worked nightclubs for 10 years, Timothy, and I was sitting there and I watched it all. I watched good people I knew in my peer group. They fell to it. I mean, I saw famous musicians fall to it. I mean, and I saw them up front. I saw it all. I saw bands in the back room shooting up and
Mhm.
shit
Yeah.
like that. It's like it's like yeah, it's a very you know.
But
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I didn't mean for that to being brought out, but
no, I mean that's we have this. I mean, it's interesting where the discussion has gone to that and this comes back to live health of the kinds of
yeah,
anxiety. You know, there are things I initially thought about. Adding making Peter, kind of a drinker or what have you, and I ultimately decided to cut that because I didn't want to tip
I was the
tip
right call.
anything or overplay it or what have you. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that's what the movie is about. It's about people who are in pain and how they cope and how every day that's how people how you cope with it. Some people cope with it through therapy. Some people cope with it through substances. Some people cope with it through exercise or however. Um, but I think
Chadwick mentioning he's got 2 years on April 5th, and he
congrats.
says that he says you know a lot about addiction. You're speaking the truth. Um, I told people to keep the comments coming because this has actually turned out to be a very an outstanding conversation. So I want to you guys keep coming in. You're part of this. You're part of this discussion. So I want to hear what you guys have to say as well.
And
Um,
the thing is also, with addiction, it or addiction or anxiety or all of that, it touches all of us. I mean, there's a lot of actors and writers and directors and
yeah.
who have that and
Do you
that
think it
and
touches your profession more than others? I mean, do you think? I had a very good friend of mine from back home, and for the life of God, I just I say this as as a joke, but only in a really bittersweet way. But it seems like everybody that wants to come out and become a blues man, right? Everyone wants to play the blues, like get on there and play guitar and play the blues.
Mhm.
And it always seems like they always have to learn how to play the Southern blues. And it always seems like in order to be considered a true bluesman, you have to shoot heroin.
Oh,
It always seems like that. It's like you look at all the true great blues players, and the majority of them have gone out that way. Very few actually die a natural death, other great ones. And there was a young man who played the blues when I was there, and when I met him, he was clean as whistle, not nothing, no nothing. And he was a great talent, but for some reason, somehow, somewhere, he got hooked. And it was just like it was almost part of the uniform of being a blues player is that you had to be a drug addict. And it's just like I'm not saying that necessarily to say to be an actor or an artist or whatnot, but it does seem like this inordinate amount of number find themselves doing it.
well, and that's the kind of stuff that's published in those trashy magazines. Of course, when Heath Ledger died, they said first, oh, drugs, Philip Seymour Hoffman, drugs, or like when Robin Williams died, they highlighted the fact that he was an addict. I mean, that's they all of them. It's just you focus not so much on the on what they may have done, but kind of lost my train of thought there. But
Well, like Peter Marcus, like you and I were talking about Peter, about the psychiatrist. They had the highest rate of suicide rate in their profession.
hmm
And like where do they go to where do they go to get treated? Where do they go? Who listens? Who guard? Or what was it? Like who guards the guardsmen? Who watches them? And
well,
it's
yeah,
like
And I think that's why he has someone that he speaks to, because if he didn't, he would go. I think he would go down the road of alcohol or another, and maybe he had in the past. That. I
I
mean,
like
it's.
the character, Timothy.
Thank
I
you.
really,
Yeah.
really liked. It's one of your best characters that you've played is Peter Marcus. I really, really like that movie a lot. I liked his performance. I like because it rang so damn true. It really
Thank
did.
you. I appreciate that. That means a lot.
And it's an emotional little piece. It really is. It's really emotional. It's so timely today.
Hmm.
Right before we got on here, I just got done reading a blurb from from a director, a writer director, who was telling. In fact, I think you might be able to see it because I posted it in the Inner Circle blog group. I shared it, and he was talking about his misadventures with his 81-year-old dad. His dad
Mm.
was sick, and he had to travel all over the place to get him to a hospital. Turned
Hmm.
out his dad had pneumonia,
Oh
and
wow.
he talked about the whole struggle about getting them down to the hospital and waiting in the aisle. There's no beds left. The doctors at the hospital, 10 of them were out with COVID. I mean, it looked. I mean, he's sitting there going like, it's like, yeah, what you're hearing, what you're seeing, what you're hearing is absolutely positively the truth.
Yeah, and it's those personal stories that audiences connect to. I mean, that's what you need. I mean, there's a place for anyone that steps up to the plate and makes a movie, whether you're acting in it or writing or directing or producing, and you put everything in it, no matter if it's a feature film or a short or a micro short or what have you. If all of these stories need to be told, and we need content. We need it now more than ever because the news, it's just you can't watch it, and I mean,
Oh, I don't
you
want
know,
to.
no, it's like it's all the same nonsense, and so you need escapism, and you need also stuff that's gonna resonate and enlighten and educate and give you that punch in the gut and the kick in the butt that audiences need sometimes
Um,
that only movies can provide, I think.
Jamie mentions says actors feel deeply. That can be very hard to deal with when playing tragic characters. For example, Cheryl Lee had a hard time getting over playing Laura Palmer in Twin Peaks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of those actresses in that project, they ended up having a lot of problems after that was over with.
Sure. I mean, like,
And
there are.
that was a really intense. I mean, because the other profession I was going to mention, because I was going to ask you this. I mean, this may seem sort of weird to ask, but especially now, because the ground is always changing. It's the ground, the acting game or the artistic game is always shifting. It's never just
Mhm.
flat. It's like this is what you're going to expect every single time. It's always
Yep.
moving.
Yep.
And to me, it's like, um, do you think it would be a good idea now? I mean, to have to have a professional a therapist or available to your cast when dealing with a heavy subject? Do you think that'd be something that could help some artists out? Like, listen, at the end of this, almost like an exit interview. Okay, Joe Smith just rapped on "Dog Eat Dog," so everybody goes in a clap because that's the end of his shoot.
I think
And when
every
he leaves,
actor.
before
I
he
think
leaves,
every actor is different. I think there are some actors that can turn it on and off, and then there are actors who take the work home with them, and it sits with them. With me, it depends on the role. I mean, I would say most of the time, you turn it off. I turn it off just because it's kind of like you leave work at work. Um,
huh,
but I don't know. Yeah, I mean, maybe that. I mean, a post interview, or I think what some actors do, I know they journal or they blog about it, or they and I know that's a form of therapy and catharsis. If there's something that's really like the person was saying, that you give a lot of yourself to, that it may be helpful to have something like that. I know production companies, I know probably the last thing they would want to do is hire a therapist, because in house, because I know a lot of indie films that would probably clean up a lot of their budget. So
Chadwick saying that he's got to go. He has to go to sleep because he got to work. No,
Chadwick,
thank you so
thanks,
much for
buddy.
showing up, Chadwick. I appreciate it every time you show.
Hmm.
Um, Thank you so much. And he said, "Great job, Timothy."
Thank you, Chadwick. Man,
Um,
congrats, man.
yeah, yeah. I reviewed his short. Like I said, the first episode of his miniseries. That's a even us critics, self style critics, self described critics, or whatever or movie lovers or whatnot. I mean, for me anyway, as an audience member, you know, yeah, sometimes as a viewer, you have to separate that movie too. Sometimes that movie will get into you, and you're not an actor, you're just a viewer, but it will get into you and it will stay with you, and it will sometimes it'll get in your head and set up a tent.
And that's the mark of that's good storytelling, because if it does have that kind of effect on you. I mean, we just watched the latest movie, Don't Look Up, which I don't know if you've seen it yet, but it's kind of with the environment and kind of the end of the world and all of that, and it's been interesting reading all of the reactions to the film, and there are people who like the film and people who dislike the film, and just it's very polarizing, just the reactions to it, and a lot of the things, people have different things that they
God, the end of the world.
remember and take away from, or the cynicism of the people on the television and the politicians and what have you, and it's kind of, or does it hit a little too close to home? And it's that's the mark of a good movie, that sparks that kind of discussion, even if you didn't care for the movie. If it sparks that kind of discussion, the movie is a success in that
Sure.
respect, because it's getting a conversation going, which I would imagine Adam McKay and Leonardo DiCaprio and everybody involved, they wanted to do is, let's start the discussion, or this is a discussion that's already been going. Let's elevate the discussion and let's keep the discussion going. Let's take it seriously. Let's get serious about it.
Yeah, it's a I know they called it a comedy drama, but I mean, I don't know how you could describe a movie about the end of the world as a comedy. It has comedy elements, maybe comedic moments, but me at the end of I saw like the last 5 minutes of that movie, and to me it was like, if I was me, sitting around with my loved ones at the table like that, you know, I guess in a way I'd be blessed to know that at least I'm going out with the folks that I love. Um, but that would be a hard, that would be, yeah, that's a movie like that's a hard one to watch, because I think it touches into a lot of people's, ultimate fear, the ultimate fear of something like that happening.
Well, and the thing is, a movie like that, you take a movie like Don't Look Up, and then you take Dr. Strangelove, which I think is infinitely better, because Strangelove, the reason of Strangelove is that because I think I got the sense that Don't Look Up was trying a little too hard to be funny, whereas Strangelove, it played it straight, and it was funny because it was kind of like you were kind of like terrified that, like, oh my god, like this could happen. Not terrified, not funny in the sense that it was jokey, but like, you're kind of like, okay, they're going for, like, it's dark and it's humorous. Whereas I thought Don't Look Up was there were some funny moments and like really pointed moments, but overall I thought it was a little I thought it missed the mark a little bit. Like I mean, I compared to movies like Doctor Strangelove or Network, were movies that they're satires, and they're very, very serious, but they deal with things in a very darkly comic way that you don't laugh at it in a sense of like, oh my God, that was hysterically funny. You laugh at it like, oh my God, that's that's where
Sad.
we are.
Yeah, that's where we are.
That's sad. That's where we are. Whereas I thought, I thought some of the performances needed to be reined in a little bit in Don't Look Up.
Did you ever see the movie called Seeking a Friend for the End of the World?
I did, and I liked that very much. I don't think it had a very big release, but that was another one that like I liked it very very much. Like it had a really very sweet I love the pairing of Steve Carell and Keira Knightley, who were marvelous together.
They really were.
And I wish that movie had a better. I don't know if I would imagine it was a tough sell for the marketing department, but it was beautiful and like great soundtrack, great but it's like a subject matter that audience members may not have wanted to confront and think about.
I think that's the reason why a lot of those end of the world movies don't do very well. Independence Day, as long as if it's a natural event, Seeking a Friend at the End of the World, or 444, The Last Day on Earth, or stuff like that. I think if it's a natural thing, then people are more frightened by that. I think if it's a comedic thing or over the top like Armageddon or something like that, I think people they see it as that and they don't get quite as scared, or their reactions are different.
Well, that with Independence Day and Armageddon, that there's going to be the action, introduce the heroes going to save the day, and that's a good classic Hollywood popcorn movie trope that the critics can hate Armageddon all they want, or Independence Day or what have you, but those the movies, they did have an effect, on the audiences who saw them.
I can go with that. So, well, now that we're talked about the end of the world here, we're just like, this is just
we're hitting it all.
I feel like we're at this what's that the Apollo or something like that, and we didn't even talk about Bob Saget yet.
God, how sad. We had, let's see, Betty White, Sidney Poitier, Peter Bogdanovich, Bob Saget. Growing up, like watching him on, Full House and America's Funniest Home Videos. And then I saw his stand-up, and I remember he was doing something in New York, and I saw his stand-up, and someone like gave me a free ticket. I'm like, Bob Saget, I didn't know he did stand-up. I went and saw his stand-up, and it was the most delightfully shocking surprise, because he was America's dad, but he was dirty, and he was funny. He was funny. And he was so, obviously, you saw the tributes that came in. He was so loved by so many people, and people shocked. And I couldn't believe he was 65. He looked amazing. To lose him, and it's just 2022 is not off to a great start.
No. Sidney Poitier and Betty White. They had great runs. They had tremendous runs. I actually celebrate that. Someone like a Bob Saget, who's 65. Yeah, he still had many years to go.
Yeah,
and that's a tragedy.
Peter Bogdanovich, I think he was in his 80s. I think, yeah.
Honest to God, this is a shame, but I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if he just retired completely, or if he would have been sick or whatnot. I don't know. For some reason, I thought he had already left.
Yeah, he was mostly, I think, he had done some acting work, but he had. I think he was like really big in film. He was a brilliant film historian, with his and of course, his early film work, Last Picture Show, will stand as one of the best films of all time, and Paper Moon, and What's Up, Doc, which is a wonderfully hysterically funny throwback to the old Howard Hawks comedies.
Jamie mentions Shakespeare used comedy to emphasize tragedy and point out absurdity. I personally thought Don't Look Up was trying to do that. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, there's what
I
they
think
say.
I think the I agree. I just think the execution just didn't for me personally. Like I'll give you an example. Like the character that Jonah Hill played, I don't know why he was in the movie other than to just be obnoxious and improvise all of that stuff. If he wasn't, in the scenes, I don't know, his performance, it took me out of, like, I was missing like key information. It was just him being obnoxious. I don't know. It was like, yeah, it just took me out. Now I thought Melanie Linsky, anything that Melanie Linsky does, like she popped up, is great. Rob Morgan was fantastic. I love Mark Rylance. If there was a really solid, Mark Rylance was really funny. And of course, Mark Rylance is brilliant in anything. Everybody was good. I thought Jonah Hill was distracting, and I thought Adam McKay needed to rein him in a lot. And I also thought the movie was a little long. I thought the subplot between Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Blanchett, of course, you needed to give her something to do. I thought if you cut that, you would have cut about 20 minutes out of the romantic, entanglement between those two. I think if you cut that out, you would have cut out 15, 20 minutes that, you could have gotten it down. But, everybody, and that's the thing, like I said, it's polarizing. Like everybody walks away from it with something different, which is what a good movie is supposed to do. I mean, movie, there are people I know who who have said that they don't like Casablanca, and I said, all right, give it, and they make some arguments that I don't agree with, but it's like, hey, if that's how the movie hits you, or I think you're crazy. But no.
Yeah, no kidding. Jamie's right. There are a lot of people like Jonah Hill and Seth Rogen out there. They're obnoxious, and you just want to you just want to give them a fat lip.
Well, you know what? The thing is, it's like actors who improvise. Improvisation is something that has to be used sparingly,
Yeah,
unless or you have to be really, really, really good at it, where it doesn't look like improvisation. Richard Pryor used to improvise in a lot of his movies, and with Gene Wilder, and you could tell when he's improvising because some of it just didn't hit. Jonah Hill, it was kind of the same thing, like him, the obnoxious. They just kept the camera rolling, and he just kept, being obnoxious, and he just kind of like let's just cut that out, I guess maybe they thought it was funny on set. I didn't find it funny.
I agree. Sometimes you got to have a really strong hand. I think to me, a good example of that is Vince Vaughn. Vince Vaughn, he's that's all he does. He improvs, but sometimes
he's very quick though. He's
very quick.
He's quick. Like the way his mind works, like it's kind of like the rat-a-tat-tat, like when you see. Then again, I don't know. Like they say that there was some improvisation in like Old School or Swingers or what have you, or Made.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It just the improvisation, like with how Jonah Hill, and maybe that wasn't improvised. I don't know. It just felt improvised, and it felt like just all of the stuff in the Oval Office, and when.
Do you like improv? Is that one of your strengths, do you feel?
I don't know. I think it has to be, with improvisation, you have to be so specific. Like you have to have a scenario, because if you're doing a comedy and you're improvising, the thing that people try to do is try to be funny and not tell the story. There's a great story that came out this week about Sidney Poitier, and they were working on In the Heat of the Night. They were shooting the movie, and then they realized that there's not a scene in the movie where Sidney Poitier and Rod Steiger are just two guys just talking throughout the entire film. They just have these guys kind of going at each other. So as the story goes, Rod Steiger and Sidney Poitier and Norman Jewison's assistant, they sat in a car and they improvised a scene. And the person recorded it. Norman Jewison's assistant recorded it. They went back and they listened, and Norman Jewison said, okay, keep this. They typed it up. They gave him the script. They memorized it. And it's the scene in the film, and if you know In the Heat of the Night, where Rod Steiger's Bill Gillespie invites Virgil Tibbs to his home, and they're sitting there. It's just a very quiet scene, and Rod Steiger's character is drinking, and you get the sense that on both characters that the guards are going down a little bit. And there's a wonderful exchange where Rod Steiger's character says to Sidney Poitier, do you ever feel, I'm paraphrasing the lines, I'm sorry, do you ever feel a little lonely? And Sidney Poitier says, no more than you, man. And Rod Steiger immediately goes right back into, and he says, don't be smart, black boy. Like he immediately, like that wall comes right back up. But for a brief moment, you saw just two kind of regular guys kind of breaking through, all of the problems that they had.
Yeah, one guy what he saw in the mirror.
Yeah.
He was looking at himself, and when he got verbalized, Sidney Poitier's character verbalized it to him. He got scared and he shut down.
Yeah, because he was telling the truth, and I think it's an extraordinary movie with a lot of really great scenes. I think it's my favorite scene in the movie, and I posted it when Sidney Poitier passed. But that was a scene that was developed through improvisation. That when you have two very well trained actors, two very solid actors, two very different actors. That I think is effective use of improvisation. If you come onto a set and like you improvise a scene and you talk out of your behind, you can't make a movie that way. I mean, no. It's hard to do that because your editor will hate you mostly, and but also, okay, if you do it once, then you have to do that. You might have to do it again and again and again, and so. But,
I just want to know right now, I'm improving right this very minute with Paladin. We're improv. This is straight improv right here. Timothy, I saw you yawn a couple of times. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up because I know you're very busy. You're, not only are you a working actor, but you're also a father and a husband, and your time is very precious. I want to say thank you so much for coming out and talking with us. Thank you to the chat. I know it was small, but you know what? Sometimes when we get our small chats like this, we get the most interesting discussions and comments. So I know that this will do well in replay, but I really enjoyed this. This is what I needed. This is what I told you before the start of the show. This is exactly what I needed after having such a crappy ass week. And of course, my week is not as crappy for a lot of people I know, but I really feel sorry for people. This week it's just been one not from the books. So what's next for you?
Let's see. So I just wrapped on a feature film called The Dirty People here in Ohio, and then I have a feature film called Protonopia, which I shot in New York, which I think they still have about maybe 30% of the film still left to film because of delays with the pandemic. And then down the line, I have a vampire movie called Breeding, where I'm going to be playing a police officer that I'm looking forward to doing, and we hope to be doing that this year or next year. And just out there, hustling like actors always do, and trying to keep busy as much as possible.
I'm going to tell this to Jamie. Jamie, I'm always appalled by Seth Rogen. Does that count? I don't like Seth Rogen.
Yeah, he's
Well, he just got underneath my skin. But I like Jonah Hill. Okay, he's all right. Sometimes he's funny.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, but I guess that's what we all need in a movie like that. We always need someone to boo and hiss at. Um, yeah, vampire movie. Now, will this be your first venture into? Well, no, I guess it won't be. But I mean, as far as genre horror though, will this
Yeah.
be your first venture into genre horror, like specifically like a vampire movie, a creature feature?
I think it is. Yeah, I think, and yeah, it's from a script written by Johnny Westwood, and Johnny's great, and the original producer director. She passed away from COVID a few months ago, and so Johnny's been working to get new interested parties, and no, I mean it's exciting, and Johnny's he's been a great person to speak to and bounce ideas off of, and yeah, I'm excited to jump into that, but I think we're still in the very early stages of production on that one.
Oh yeah, the character. Yeah, yeah. I know. I was teasing you a little bit, giving you a little bit. I have to. That's the thing about Netflix is, which is frustrating, is the fact that a lot of films that Netflix do or the streaming services do, like Disney Plus or whatnot, that they don't actually necessarily release them out to the whole market anymore. So
Mm-mm.
whereas where I would like to see Don't Look Up, the chances are, unless Netflix actually puts it out, which is probably not going to be very likely, I
Yeah.
probably won't see it. Because I don't do streaming, so the chances of me seeing a movie like that are slim to none.
Mm.
But that's what they chose to do that. So unfortunate, unfortunate.
Hmm.
Um, so Jamie, you and Chadwick and a few others that came into the chat tonight, you definitely saved my bacon. I really do appreciate you. And in fact, Jamie will be here with us on the 25th. She'll be here as a guest. So, and she is she knows a lot about Twin Peaks. So we'll be talking a lot about Twin Peaks. And
Good, good
yeah,
show. Good show. Way ahead of its time. But
yeah,
God,
I can't. When we talk about this, I'm going to tell her the stories that when it first came out. The first season was so electric. In fact, honestly, if I'm being honest here, I cannot remember another TV show since then that has completely taken over the country as the Twin Peaks did.
I
That
remember
was insane.
when that came on. I think I was in sixth or seventh grade, and I remember that everybody was watching it, and
Every,
just and Kyle MacLachlan. I remember him hosting Saturday Night Live and making and all of these. Actors and like David Lynch, like finding the right actors, like finding like Ray Wise and it's all of these great character actors who just and Robert Forster said long before he died, because he was originally supposed to play the role that Michael Onkeen played, but Robert Forster wasn't available. And then when Michael Onkeen wasn't available for the reboot, Robert Forster came back and I think played the sheriff's brother. So it's like, things always, you stick with it, things will happen.
all right. We will be dark for tomorrow. Unfortunately, like I said, our guest Sherry Davis will not be here tomorrow, but we will be back on Friday at 8 p.m. for a special show with Rachel Ferguson. It's our first trip down to New Zealand, so we're heading on down there to talk to Rachel Warrior Woman Ferguson, and that show will start at 8 o'clock Eastern time here. Next week, I'll read off next week's schedule, and then we're out of here. On the 18th, we have two shows. On the 18th, I'll be here at noon Eastern time to talk to Kel Hamahero. who is a Norwegian filmmaker, and his new movie called Entombed has just been released, and we'll talk about Entombed. And then at night at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we have Eric Hyde will be here. You might know him as Hey Internet. It's Eric. He'll be here, and we'll be talking blood sport among other things. On the 19th, we have our good friend Heroic Waffles will be here. He's a film collector, so he will talk to us about collecting films and what constitutes a good deal. And if you thought about getting into movie collecting, how do you start? How would you start getting a collection? He'll be here to tell you how he did it with himself. And then on the 20th, we have podcaster Don Anelli will be here. Don Anelli from the Horror Countdown podcast. He'll be here on the 20th. So we have a really strong week ahead of us. I can't wait for it. I'm excited to meet Kel Hammerhero. I watched and reviewed Entombed, and that is a very good movie. And he has created a terrific villain that we will talk about. For everybody else, I want to say thank you. Please feel free to share this out to your friends and peers and whatnot. And we will see you tomorrow. Thank you again for coming out. Peace. I'll see you right there, Tim.
Mm-hmm.